Part 40. I started my cultivation by picking up the immortal skills. Author, Banzuan Xianxia. Chapter 391. The body of the Lord of Naihuo City sank under the trees in the swamp, but the spiritual consciousness of the demon will had already locked onto him. His demon will, with its incomparably terrifying might, instantly crushed those trees. The wood chips were carried up by the huge spiritual power turbulence and moved with the wind, and Zuyun's fire phoenix was also approaching. The extremely high temperature immediately ignited those fire chips. From a distance, this area seemed to be an endless hell of fire, and the entire sky was on fire. In the sea of fire, the black demon will was set off, looking even more weird. Boom! The demon will slammed heavily into the swamp, and countless mud and water splashed up, but before it got close to the fire phoenix, it was directly evaporated by the high temperature outside. The water vapor filled up with a hissing sound, like a poisonous miasma that was turned out of the swamp. But such a momentum did not force the Lord of Naihuo City out, until the fire phoenix rushed into the swamp one after another. Such a movement spread dozens of miles away. Also in the marsh, more than 10 people stopped. They held swords in their hands, with incredible looks in their eyes. It was the group of Jindan Stage and Zufeng led by Jian. Are those monsters coming? Xianxia said in a deep voice. In order to prevent the monster birds from chasing them, they hid their bodies and momentum and chose to walk through the marsh. But walking in the marsh was not that easy, mainly because Zufeng was holding him back. But this was Jian's beloved disciple, and no one dared to object. The bird monster only relied on its sharp beak and claws and ordinary magic, and it was probably impossible to make such a noise. In my opinion, it must have encountered some hidden monks, right? Xianxia was said, and then looked at Jian. Jian pondered for a moment and said, with such a movement, they must be at least in the late Jindan stage. What Chai was said is right, they should be some hard-working casual cultivators in the Jindan stage. You know, all the Jindan stage cultivators from the sects in Yas who were killed by us. Then, second brother, should we take this opportunity to leave, or? The other elders looked at Jian. And Jian looked at Zufeng. He had nothing to worry about, even if he went to Bingzhou, it was for Zufeng. Zufeng's eyes flashed, according to what these people said, someone must be killing the bird demon. The magic skills he practiced can absorb and transform any living creature into his own use. The only condition is that it must be alive. I haven't practiced for a long time, and my practice is stagnant. Why not? Master, don't worry about me, I will hide well. And since I am a casual cultivator, I will definitely cooperate with our Wanjian mountain to kill the bird monster. I didn't expect my disciple to be so sensible. Jian said that it didn't matter, but in fact he still wanted to stay in Yazhu. He really didn't expect Zufeng to say such a thing, and he couldn't help but be very happy. Let's go and have a look. Can you go back along the original route? Master, don't worry, I remember the way. Zufeng naturally didn't want to go with them, otherwise how could he secretly suck the corpses of those monsters? Haha, good. Jian laughed loudly, and said with heroic spirit, everyone, it's only a few dozen miles, follow me to fly and have a look. After that, everyone flew out of the dense forest together and flew towards the battle site over there. And Zuyun, with a strange step, returned to the original route under the cover of the dense forest. As long as he absorbs some more bird demons, he can break through to the middle stage of foundation building, and he will be one step closer to Zuyun. A few dozen miles, it doesn't take much time for these Jindan stage. Soon, they approached the border between Bingzhou and Yazhu. It's the demon will sect. Jian said in a deep voice, thinking it was not good. Although there were only 3 people from the demon will sect floating in the air, it was completely beyond their expectations. People from Wanjian Mountain. Mo Tianlun also saw several people over there at a glance, and couldn't help but exclaimed. Jinlun and Yinlun quickly looked over, and anger burst out of their eyes. What kind of words that good and evil cannot coexist, they never took to heart. All they cared about was that Wanjian Mountain was treacherous. Why did the people from Wanjian Mountain come back? But why are there so few people? Zuyun was also shocked, and flew over from the other side to meet up with the three people from Mo Tianlun. Jian and others only then realized that there were 4 people here. Second brother, that guy looks familiar, but he doesn't look like someone from the Demon Wheel sect. The people of the Demon Wheel sect are easy to recognize, and their characteristic is the various demon wheels. Even if they are in the Jindan stage, they don't need to control the demon wheel to fly, and there will be some magic power surging. But obviously, Zuyun didn't have that. It looks like an ordinary Jindan early stage. It's just that this figure is a little too familiar. It's the kid who refined our Wanjian Mountain. Jian is a man of all people, and he recognized him at a glance. Suddenly, Jian forgot the purpose of coming here. For ordinary elders, Wanjian Mountain is just the location of the mountain gate. But for Jian, this is almost their belief. Catch that kid. With Jian order, everyone flew towards Zuyun without hesitation. But who knew that a strange sound suddenly came from the swamp? Woo woo woo. The sound was low and long, and then countless black shadows spread from below. It's a bird demon. The lord of Naihuo City, who had been hiding in the swamp for a long time, finally found an opportunity. The bird demon rushed out of the dense forest and flew into the sky. The demon refining tower also grew rapidly under the control of the lord of Naihuo City, and the top of the tower soon emerged from the canopy of the dense forest. Retreat first. Zuyun shouted, and retreated more than 10 feet with the 3 people from the demon wheel section at the same time. He pinched the sky-gathering thunder talisman in his hand. Second brother, kill the bird demon first or catch that kid. Someone shouted loudly behind Jian. Kill the bird demon first. If the bird demon is not eliminated, I'm afraid our lives will be in danger. Jian immediately regained his sanity. He knew the strength of these bird demons very well. One is not enough, but a group can devour their flesh and blood. As soon as the voice fell, Jian and others burst into spiritual power, turning into sword energy around their bodies. And the long sword, with sword energy that can rival KGE, slashed at the flock of bird demons. But before the sword light arrived, the sky suddenly became gloomy. Boom! It was Zuyun who reacted faster than them. When the thunder sounded, they were suddenly startled. Before they could react to why the wind and clouds changed color, countless lightning snakes fell from the sky and blasted all the bird monsters in the air into powder before they could make a move. The people of Wanjian Mountain immediately stayed where they were. They couldn't imagine that the bird monster beast tide that they dared not underestimate was gone just like that. It's the thunder of the sky. Jian murmured and retracted his long sword. Just spit out 3 words, and the thunder clouds dispersed again. Is it because the heaven is angry, so the thunder of the sky is coming down? Someone said tremblingly. Impossible. If these bird monster beast tides can trigger the thunder of the sky, why did we run away at that time? Jian shook his head and his eyes suddenly fell on Zuyun. It can be seen that the 3 people of Mo Tianlun behind Zuyun also had a look of confusion and fear on their faces, and obviously didn't know why it was like this. Only Zuyun was indifferent. So, that kid did it? Jian took a deep breath and said something shocking. Impossible, that kid is only in the early stage of Jindan. Someone immediately screamed in surprise, unable to accept this fact. Jian shook his head and sighed, then tell me, why can an early stage of Jindan refine Wanjian Mountain? As soon as this was said, the whole audience was silent. Until the demonic energy was overflowing, they suddenly came to their senses, only to see that the demon refining tower had stretched to more than 10 feet. Immediately, an extremely angry voice sounded. "Die, all of you die." A golden light flew out from below, and Xianxia roared wildly, "Escape!" In the bronze door, the golden dragon flew out again, and the breath of the demon king was comparable to that of the Yuanying stage. Even if the golden dragon only had Zuyun in its eyes, the huge demonic energy leaked out made them feel terrified. How could they dare to stay here? Even Xianxia forgot the most important fact: if such a demon king wanted to hunt them down, could they escape? But when the golden dragon flew out of the demon refining tower, he found Zuyun here. "Boy, I met you again." The golden dragon spoke in human language, his voice was cold and low. And the golden light flashed, and the golden dragon was already close to Zuyun. "You run." Before he finished speaking, Zuyun flashed and used the thunder escape technique. And the golden dragon had a bloody mouth and bit Zuyun's after image. Not far from the after image, the three people of Motianlun were already scared and dumbfounded, floating in the air in a daze, not knowing how to dodge. The golden dragon had no time to pay attention to them. If it wanted to kill, it only needed a thought. At this time, it only wanted to kill Zuyun. Turning its body, the dragon's tail brought up endless gusts of wind, which threw the three people down. At the same time, it condensed its demonic power, and a boundless giant net woven with golden light suddenly appeared in the air, covering Zuyun's head. I started my cultivation by picking up the immortal skills. Author, Banzuan Xianxia. Chapter 392. This golden net was several miles wide and extremely fast. Zuyun couldn't escape even if he used several thunder escape techniques. This golden dragon actually has such magic? Wait, is this a formation? When the net was about to cover Zuyun, the magic power flowing on it made Zuyun tremble all over, as if he saw the formation pattern. Although they were not exactly the same, they had the same effect. So, can it be broken with the formation breaking hammer? Zuyun only concentrated his mind, and the golden light had trapped Zuyun firmly in the air. The net bag formed a huge sphere, and the figure of the golden dragon also arrived in an instant. "Ha ha ha, kid, I'll see where you will escape to." While speaking, the golden dragon demon king immediately turned into a human form, wearing a jade crown on his head, with endless sarcasm under his majestic face. Zuyun stretched his right hand into his arms and squeezed the formation-breaking hammer tightly. When he was not sure whether the golden dragon had other means, he would not show his ability to break the formation. He could only retreat as far as possible and stay away from the golden dragon monster king. But the range of movement was only in this big net bag. "Boy, I will deal with the others first, and then I will deal with you." After that, just when Zuyun thought that the golden dragon monster king was going to kill those people in Wanjian mountain, he did not expect that he would turn down and rush into the swamp. "Who is there? The Lord of Naihuo City?" Zuyun suddenly widened his eyes. So, the Lord of Naihuo City did not fully master the demon refining tower? As soon as the thought came up, the roar of the Lord of Naihuo City came from below. "Beast, dare to kill the master." "It is true." Zuyun hurriedly looked down, only to see the Lord of Naihuo City sticking to the outer wall of the demon refining tower and flying up in a panic. The golden dragon monster king was full of demonic power and kept chasing the Lord of Naihuo City. But it seems that after using this golden net, the golden dragon king consumed a lot of energy, and he couldn't do anything to the Lord of Naihuo City for a while. He narrowed his eyes and quietly took out the formation-breaking hammer. The Lord of Naihuo City was helping him delay time at this time. If he could escape, he might be able to kill the golden dragon king. As long as he died, the Lord of Naihuo City would naturally not be afraid. The golden hammer hit the big net heavily. After a crisp sound, several gusts of power surged out, and then they dissipated. However, there was no attack power, and it had no effect on Zuyun. While knocking, Zuyun looked in the direction of the previous demon wheel, but he didn't expect that the three people didn't escape from here, but hid in a tree canopy and whispered, as if they were discussing something. Could it be that they were thinking of a way to save me? If so, these demon cultivators really value friendship more than other cultivators. But this is just a guess. Zuyun will not jump to conclusions, and the most important thing at the moment is to get out of trouble. The formation breaking hammer has already taken effect, and he certainly won't be willing to stay in this big net and wait for death. As Zuyun continued to hit the big net, the Golden Dragon Demon King and the Lord of Naihuo City, who were chasing and fleeing, both lost their patience. Come out! The Lord of Naihuo's eyes were almost spitting fire. Since he couldn't control the Golden Dragon, he might as well let the other big monsters come out. As soon as the voice fell, the bronze door under the demon refining tower opened. One after another, the eternal and huge demon power emerged one after another. Hey, this human ant is willing to let me out. Ha ha ha, I guess this ant wants to recognize us as the master. If so, then I won't eat him, and leave him a whole body. He, a dried corpse should also be considered a whole body, right? Then don't waste it. How nice it would be if I sucked him dry. Various voices rang out, and 10 terrifying auras jumped out of the bronze door one after another. Zuyun was horrified. Even though these monsters didn't notice this place, he was almost out of breath. Is the Lord of Naihuo City going to perish together? After all 10 monster kings came out, more monsters rushed out of the bronze door. In terms of the degree of demonic energy, these monsters are not as good as the monster kings, but they are no different from the momentum of the Jindan stage. After they came out, they saw the 10 monster kings standing on the side of the tower, and they didn't dare to move. They all lay down and knelt on the ground, showing their submission. Those were 10 monster kings. Hey, big reptile, why don't you have much demonic power? Before all the monsters came out, another mocking voice sounded. The name of the big reptile was obviously for the Golden Dragon. Turkey, what does this have to do with you? The Golden Dragon Monster King looked back and saw a monster that looked like a fire phoenix. But the Golden Dragon knew very well that it was almost the same as itself, but with a little bit of phoenix blood. It's really none of my business, but seeing that you have lost your demonic power, I think I can bully you a bit. After saying that, the Fire Phoenix Demon King transformed into a human form. Wearing a rosy crown and a bright red dress, it contrasted with his red hair. Then, the Fire Phoenix slapped his palm in the air, and endless demonic fire gushed out. Turkey, you dare! The Golden Dragon Demon King, who was chasing the Lord of Naihuo City, roared immediately. It was not that he could not contend with such a huge demonic power. But after contending, he had no more demonic power in his body. In desperation, he had to give up the Lord of Naihuo City and hide from the demonic fire. The Lord of Naihuo City got a chance to breathe, and flew to the 9th floor of the demon refining tower without hesitation, and got in through a very small window. At this point, all the demon kings present were dumbfounded. They thought that the Lord of Naihuo City had nowhere to go, but they never thought that he could actually enter the demon refining tower directly from the tower. Just because even if he couldn't completely control these demon beasts, the demon refining tower still belonged to his magic weapon after all. He kept circling the demon refining tower to dodge the pursuit of the Golden Dragon Demon King. In addition to letting the tower cover him, he was also looking for opportunities to hide in it. And in the demon refining tower, even if these demon kings went back, they couldn't do anything to him. He could completely suppress these demon kings through the demon refining tower. In the distance, Zuyun also saw the scene and couldn't help but be stunned. How could he have thought that the Lord of Naihuo City actually had this method? He was in the big net. Although the Golden Dragon had no time to pay attention to him for the time being, what about the other demon kings? The huge demon power was intertwined and entangled, and he felt that it was simply a power to destroy the world. The three people from the Demon Will sect had already fled far away when they felt that the Demon King had gone out, not to mention Xianxia and others. At the bottom of the demon refining tower, demon beasts continued to pour out of the bronze door, but after entering the 9th floor in the Naihuo city, they controlled the bronze door to close it. But with the demon refining tower as the center, the area within a mile was filled with countless demon beasts. There were countless demon beasts comparable to the Jindan stage alone. Zuyun was knocking the golden net frantically in his hand, but it was obvious that the attention of those demon kings was all on the fire phoenix. It was just because the fire phoenix looked like a dog that was beaten when it fell, just like the golden dragon demon king chasing the lord of Naihuo city before. The shouts and scolds kept coming, but the fire phoenix was not angry, just laughing. The other demon kings were also happy to watch the fun and did not intervene in this matter. Obviously, with their realm, there would be no threat to them in the Yao realm. This is equivalent to 10 Yuanying stages here. Finally, Zuyun knocked a gap in the net. He quickly put the hammer into the storage bag, took out more than 100 earth wall talismans and put them in his arms, and then flew out of the gap. "Don't chase, Turkey, that kid is out." The golden dragon yelled, but the fire phoenix was unmoved, and laughed at him. "Are you talking about the kid you trapped in there? When did you, a big reptile, get scared of an early stage of Dan formation?" When the fire phoenix just came out of the demon refining tower, he saw that the big gate of the golden dragon was holding a person. With his strength, he only needed to take a glance to see Zuyun's realm. "I'm afraid? Do you know why I spent 80% of my demon power to trap him? That kid has many tricks." The golden dragon roared, but did not dare to stop. He knew the temper of the fire phoenix. If he said he wanted to beat him, he would definitely beat him. He had almost no demon power, and if he was burned by his demon fire, he would probably destroy a lot of demon scales. At this time, a demon king with the word king engraved on his forehead laughed and said, "Big reptile, you are so scared of a mere Jindan stage, I'll go and see." The voice was still echoing in the ears of the demons, and the demon king had already rushed out. One of the demon kings said in a muffled voice, "This old cat is quite fast. Let's just watch the show. Now that we have escaped from the demon refining tower, it means that our immortal fate has come." "Hee, that's right. The old pig, eat and sleep in there every day. If I hadn't been suppressed by the demon refining tower, I would have made further progress." Unlike these demon kings who were calm and composed, Zuyun was extremely frightened. He never thought that another demon king would attack him when he suddenly came out. Although his speed was much slower than that of the golden dragon, his flying figure was erratic, and he had no way of judging where the demon king would attack him next. But no matter what, he could only use the thunder escape technique. "I don't believe it. I use the thunder escape technique in the air. I don't even know where I will go. How can you catch me?" As soon as Zuyun disappeared, the demon king slapped him where he just stood. The demon power surged, and even though Zuyun's body just flashed, he was blown away. The demon king immediately locked his demon consciousness on Zuyun. Seeing that he was only 30 or 40 steps away from him, he raised his right palm and slapped him in the air. The endless demon power, like a tidal wave, came in an instant, and he had no time to use the thunder escape technique. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. I started my cultivation by picking up the immortal skills. Author, Banzuan Xianxia. Chapter 393. Old cat, don't beat him to death. At this time, another demon king suddenly flashed to the side, raised his hand upward, and pretended to block the old cat's attack. Unexpectedly, another loud noise came. The two looked carefully, and saw that at some point, the old cat's endless demon power was all blasted on a mud wall. It turned out that Zuyun used the mud wall talisman at the critical moment. Being in the sky, the mud wall did not rise from the ground, so it appeared out of thin air, which was very abrupt. The two demon kings were stunned for a while. The old cat's palm, the Yuanying ancestor, either retreated or tried his best to resist. But this kid is only in the early stage of Jindan, but he has such a defense method. They didn't notice at all that this was a high-level talisman used by Zuyun. Boom! After a breath, the mud wall shattered and then dissipated between heaven and earth. Zuyun, however, disappeared under the cover of the earth wall. "Good boy," as the big reptile said, "you have many tricks." The old cat couldn't help but praise him, and his interest increased greatly. "Old cat, aren't you here to kill him?" the demon king beside him said. Even though he turned into a human form, his face was full of short yellow-brown hair, which was very characteristic of a demon beast. "Naughty monkey, when did I say I was here to kill him? I just heard that the reptile said it was interesting, so I came to try it." The reason why he called the other party a naughty monkey was because he was the monkey demon king. The monkey king stared and said, "Playing? You said that this palm that is comparable to the nascent soul stage is playing against an early stage of the core formation. No way, this is already my weakest strength." The old cat spread his hands. The monkey king didn't say anything, because the old cat was actually the powerful tiger demon king. "Okay, since you are here, help find that boy, I haven't had enough fun yet," the old cat said while looking around. Unfortunately, he didn't find anything. The monkey king sneered, "That kid is so skilled, how could he fly away? In my opinion, he must have fallen into the dense forest of the swamp." As he said that, he released his demon consciousness and rushed to the ground. But after searching for a while, he didn't find anything. He couldn't help scratching his head and said in confusion, "Strange, no one." The smile on the old cat's face became even bigger. "This kid is really good at hiding. Otherwise, I'll let the dog thing come over, he has a sharp nose." The monkey king's face sank, and he said, "Old cat, do you think the dog king will help you?" Suddenly, the old cat's face fell. Indeed, he had a very bad relationship with the dog king. When he was in the demon tower, he often transformed into his original body and fought non-stop. Usually every time, there was no winner, and both sides were injured. "Let's go down and take a look together. Maybe this kid has a magic weapon to block our demon consciousness." The monkey king pointed down and the two of them fell into the swamp quickly. At the side of the demon refining tower, the fire phoenix finally lost interest and stopped chasing the golden dragon. It landed at the bottom of the demon refining tower and looked at the bronze door thoughtfully. The golden dragon finally breathed a sigh of relief. Not only did it return to its original form, but it also shrunk its body and hid under the eaves of the 9th floor of the demon refining tower, desperately trying to recover its demonic power. "It's so boring. I really want to go kill people for fun," the fire phoenix said to a demon king. "If you want to go, I'll go with you. It's okay to go to the ends of the earth," a demon king said with a flattering smile. "Are you serious? I want to go to Peeper Realm. Do you dare to go with me?" The fire phoenix's face was full of teasing. "Go, of course. I didn't dare to go before, but now I dare to go." The demon king patted his chest. "Okay, then let's go, but you have to listen to me along the way." "Okay." Without waiting for the other demon kings to come to their senses, the two demon kings both transformed and flew towards the north. Why did they leave? Who cares? Turkey just wants to use that stupid Ares. They're going to Peeper Realm to die, but I won't go. That's right. The demon control sect in Peeper Realm is afraid that they will see us. Their ancestors who are in seclusion will come out of the coffin. Indeed, the demon control sect's skills are naturally restrained by us. After I can't hold back all my demon power, I will definitely not go there. The demon kings talked a lot, but they didn't decide where to go. On the contrary, one of them didn't participate in it, but kept staring at the old cat and the monkey king. Suddenly, he jumped out, and after a few breaths, he stood beside the monkey king. "Dog King, are you here to fight with the old cat?" The monkey king asked without looking at him. "Are you looking for someone?" The dog king got straight to the point and said with a cold expression. "Yes, that kid." The old cat thought it was interesting, so he wanted to find it and play with it. "You can't find it." The dog king shook his head after hearing what the monkey king said, and said, "I can't even smell it, how can you find it?" The monkey king's face tightened, and he said, "You can't smell it." The dog king nodded, and the monkey king fell silent. "I saw the phoenix king and the sheep king leave. Are they going to Peeper Realm to die? One smart and one stupid, it's really a perfect match, who cares what they do? What are your plans?" The dog king said lightly. The monkey king pondered for a moment, and said, "I finally got out of the demon refining tower. What are my plans? 10,000 mountains. I don't know, I always feel that the demon refining tower is not that simple, I just want to stay away from it." After saying that, the dog king didn't linger much, took off and flew away. They are all monster beasts that have cultivated to the realm of monster kings and don't talk so much nonsense. Everything is as you wish. The monkey king was thoughtful, he always felt that things were not that simple. They are all demon kings who have stayed in the demon refining tower for so long and know everything about it. He suddenly left the demon refining tower this time, as if he had a profound enlightenment, which made him a little puzzled. But for a while, I couldn't think of anything, so I called the Tiger King and asked him what his plan was. "Old cat, stop looking. How about we leave too?" The Tiger King looked sideways and vertically, and then said for a long time, "If you want to leave, you can go, I have to find that boy. This swamp and dense forest is only so big, I don't believe he can hide anywhere." After hearing this, the Monkey King was extremely helpless. If he and the Tiger King had not been dependent on each other since childhood, supporting each other, and going through many difficulties and dangers to cultivate to the realm of the Demon King, otherwise he would definitely leave here. In desperation, he had no choice but to say, "Then I will wait for you here. It happens that there is no one in the dense forest. I will drive out those ordinary monsters later." Tiger King grinned and said, "You should be loyal." With that said, there was another whooshing sound, and he jumped up to the top of the tree. The rest of the Demon Kings also dispersed, leaving only the Golden Dragon remaining to practice under the 9-story mast of the Demon Refining Tower. He shrank in size, and the other Demon Kings really couldn't do anything to him. After the Demon Kings dispersed, the other demon beasts slowly started to move. Some simply jumped into the swamp and lurked, while others ran towards Bingzhou. But more of them are walking in the direction of Yazhu. Anyway, it won't be long before these monsters disperse. Anyway, there is no Demon King giving them orders, so naturally they are not willing to stay here. "Small monkey, come with me. If we encounter that kid, we will attack together and we may catch him." At this time, the Tiger King suddenly shouted, and the Monkey King followed. And in the position where he was standing before, in the trunk of a tree that had lived for an unknown period of time, Zuyun let out a long sigh of relief. Yes, he was hiding in the tree. When the earthen wall was destroyed, he had already thought of a solution. Escape is impossible. You may be discovered if you escape into the water, but only if you escape into the trees will you be surprised. Although the water escape technique can move freely in the water, this is a swamp and the area is too small to use the water escape technique at all. The earth escape technique also doesn't mean much. As long as it moves in the soil, it will leave traces. These are comparable to the Demon Kings in the infant stage, and he does not dare to take any risks. Only with the wood escape technique, no one would have thought that he could become one with the tree. Moreover, the wood escape technique will not leave any trace at all. Most importantly, the wood release technique may allow him to freely switch positions between different trees. Just don't be discovered by the demon consciousness during the switching process. Zuyun can naturally feel whether there is demonic consciousness or not. After seeing the Monkey King and Tiger King moving away, Zuyun's mind moved and he had already escaped into the big tree a few steps away. He didn't want to escape, but he wanted to get as close as possible to the demon refining tower. If given the chance, he would enter the demon refining tower. Since the Lord of Backfire City can hide in, then naturally I can too. If it's one-on-one, Zuyun is fully confident that he can face the Lord of Naihuo City who doesn't have the demon refining tower. After several wood escape techniques, Zuyun finally appeared in a tree near the Tongmen. But he ignored the Golden Dragon Demon King. The condescending Jinjiao could see clearly after Zuyun got closer. However, he did not make any announcement. At this time, he has recovered a little demonic power. He plans to take advantage of Zuyun's unpreparedness, directly crush him with his realm, and then take away everything on him. After Zuyun carefully emerged from the last tree, the Golden Dragon Demon King also moved. I started my cultivation by picking up the immortal skills. Author, Banzuan Xianxia. Chapter 394. Swish. The Golden Dragon Demon King did not enlarge his body at all. At this moment, he was clearly a golden snake as thick as a finger. But the momentum he showed was not weak at all. With a sound of breaking through the air, he wrapped around Zuyun's neck. However, although he was fast, he did not expect that Zuyun had already been prepared. Although Zuyun did not know that the Golden Dragon Demon King was hiding under the eaves of the 9th floor of the Demon Refining Tower, he even thought that he had left here with other Demon Kings. But after all, he saw with his own eyes that when the bronze door opened, countless demon beasts emerged here. He left the tree just to test it. He knew very well that if a demon beast attacked him the moment he showed his figure, it would be the best time. So after just a few steps, he prepared the thunder escape technique to prevent a sneak attack. Coincidentally, this just allowed him to avoid the attack of the Golden Dragon Demon King. But the murderous aura had already invaded his whole body. Zuyun appeared 200 steps away in shock and saw the familiar golden light. I didn't expect that he was still here. Fortunately, I didn't let my guard down, otherwise I would definitely die here. When the Golden Dragon Monster King missed the first attack, he knew that he had exposed himself and there was no possibility of a sneak attack. He simply gathered the remaining demon power, slightly bent his body, and suddenly bounced towards Zuyun. The golden light flashed, like an arrow from a string, shooting towards Zuyun. But at a distance of 200 steps, no matter how fast the Golden Dragon was, he couldn't hit Zuyun. Even if he had locked Zuyun with his spiritual consciousness. But what the Golden Dragon Monster King didn't expect was that Zuyun was best at surprise. Seeing how fast he was, he used another thunder escape technique and escaped in the direction of the Demon Refining Tower. The Golden Dragon Monster King thought that Zuyun would either go left or right, or continue to escape straight ahead, but he didn't expect that Zuyun would escape behind him. At this time, he was too fast, and was limited by the lack of demonic power in his body. He was even more afraid that his movements would attract the Tiger Demon King and the Monkey Demon King, so he didn't dare to stop forcefully. When his momentum was reduced, he saw Zuyun just entered the Demon Refining Tower. Damn, cunning human ant! The Golden Dragon roared, and flew to the front of the bronze door with an unwilling look. He was extremely entangled in his heart, and had 10,000 hearts that wanted to kill Zuyun, but the Demon Refining Tower made him hesitate. As long as he entered the Demon Refining Tower, his strength would be suppressed. If he met Zuyun, it would be fine, but if he met the Lord of Naihuo City, he would be powerless to save the situation. Recalling the face he had given to the Lord of Naihuo City, combined with the demonic power in his body now, he hesitated in his heart. Having stayed in the demon refining tower for an unknown number of years, both he and other demon beasts knew very well that the Lord of Naihuo City was in the tower, and was almost invincible to the demon beasts. Previously, if other demon kings were there, it would be fine. Even if the Lord of Naihuo City could suppress them, he would still have some concerns. But at this time, there was no demon king at all. If he went in, he would be the only one. Moreover, could he come out again? But if he didn't kill that kid, the golden dragon would never be willing to give up. He let a Jindan stage run away one after another, like a slap in his face. At this time, Zuyun was in the first level of the demon refining, looking at the mountain in front of him with an incredible face. This is the place to leave and go to the next level. He thought that, just like entering the demon refining tower before, he might appear anywhere. But no matter what, he didn't expect to come here directly. The original intention of hiding in the demon refining tower was to reach the 9th floor to find the Lord of Naihuo City. But at this time, the exit was right in front of him, and Zuyun immediately changed his mind to see if there was a chance to sneak attack the Golden Dragon Demon King. The Golden Dragon Demon King did not follow him closely, so 9 out of 10 times he stayed outside. Thinking of this, Zuyun made a quick decision and held the black sword in his hand. At the same time, he also held more than 10 earth wall talismans in his hand. If the attack failed, he would flee back to the demon refining tower again. After making a plan, Zuyun flashed and immediately stepped into the light gate. In front of him, a familiar golden light flashed, and Zuyun threw out a stack of earth wall talismans without hesitation. Boom! 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 With a loud noise, earth walls rose from the swamp. With Zuyun's intention, the earth walls formed a square earth prison. Boy, you are looking for death. The golden dragon did not expect that Zuyun would dare to come out and attack him. He roared and swung his tail at an earth wall. Boom! The earth wall did not move at all, but after a breath, it shattered. Boy, don't look at my small size, but my strength has not weakened. The golden dragon laughed grimly. Since Zuyun had made a noise, he didn't need to worry about whether he would be discovered by the Monkey Demon King and the Tiger Demon King. The only thing now was to quickly take him down. However, when the earth wall was completely transformed into spiritual power and dissipated in the world, his laughter stopped abruptly. Because behind the earth wall, there is still an earth wall. Boy, it's just an earth wall, what can you do with more? The golden dragon was furious, and its body suddenly became a little bigger, and its powerful tail swung out again. Bang! After the same breath, the earth wall shattered and dissipated. But behind it, there is still an earth wall. Xianxia was furious, and he felt naked contempt. If it was a means of attacking him, then forget it, but using earthen walls one after another did not take him seriously at all. I don't believe it anymore, your earthen walls are endless. The golden dragon looked like it was crazy and flicked its tail again. But this time, his tail didn't hit the wall. Because 3 breaths of time from beginning to end is enough for Zuyun to take action. Zi la. Zi la. Zi la. Countless sounds of thunder and lightning came down from above, and the golden dragon felt the aura of destroying the heaven and the earth. He couldn't help but look up. In the square sky, Zuyun was holding a purple thunder sword, like a divine weapon descending from the sky. The terrifying power has been locked on his body. Even though his Demon King state is comparable to the pill formation stage, how could he have imagined how powerful Zuyun's methods are? After the earth wall there was still earth wall. Zuyun did not have so many talismans that he had no place to put them. Instead, buy yourself time to cast the Wuji sword technique. The purpose of the 4-square wall is to narrow the area so that the golden dragon can't avoid it. Even if he wanted to escape, the golden dragon could only escape into the sky. but Zuyun originally worked from top to bottom. As long as he moved, Zuyun would immediately release all the thunder power on the sword. A move at this level can determine life or death in just one breath. If you want to kill the golden dragon, every step is indispensable. Zuyun cleverly used the Earth Wall talisman to put Xianxia into a difficult situation. Get down here. As Zuyun roared, thunder spirit power came out from the black sword. Crack! 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 After leaving the sword, although the thunder spirit power went downwards, it continued to wreak havoc on every corner of the world. Every trace of thunder spirit power turned into purple sword energy, leaping and falling, making it impossible to judge the direction. The golden dragon had a look of horror on his face and instinctively shrank his figure. The bigger the body is, the more thunder power it will bear. Now, he can only hope to shrink his body to the size of a small snake that has just hatched from an egg, so as to reduce the attack of this thunder spirit power as much as possible. Under such a crisis, the Golden Dragon Demon King made the best decision. But in the process of shrinking his body, he still withstood a lot of sword energy transformed by thunder spirit power. A feeling of needles digging into his bones made him miserable. But Xianxia knew that he had no choice but to carry on at this time. And when all the sword energy dissipated, he was already dying. This thunder power is so terrifying, I actually survived. Xianxia felt that his eyelids were extremely heavy, and all the demonic power on his body had been dissipated. Even if he survived, there was no trace of joy. Because he couldn't move at all. At this time, Zuyun's body had already fallen down. He stretched out his hand and pinched the 7 inches that turned into a golden snake. Just as he was about to cut him off with the black sword, the wall in front of him suffered heavy blows one after another. In just one breath, the earth walls on both sides collapsed at the same time. It's those two demon kings. The Monkey Demon King and Tiger Demon King are coming from the other side, and they will reach here in at most 3 breaths. Zuyun didn't know what the Monkey Demon King would do to him if he didn't run away and was captured alive. But if he becomes the Tiger Demon King's plaything, it's better to kill him. Zuyun squinted his eyes, tightened the black sword in his hand, and the chaotic spiritual power suddenly turned into golden spiritual power. Let the sword energy out. The huge sword energy, which was also comparable to a blow from the nascent soul stage, struck the earth wall in front of Zuyun. The earth wall on this side is exactly the direction from which the golden dragon attacked earlier. 2 sides have been damaged, this is the last side. When the earth wall shattered, the figures of 2 demon kings emerged from the smoke on the other sides. Hey, good boy, you worked so hard to find me. Come on, come and play. The Tiger Demon King looked surprised and grabbed Zuyun from the air, while the Monkey Demon King even pulled out a monkey hair from behind his ear and flicked it towards Zuyun. I started my cultivation by picking up the immortal skills. Author, Banzuan Xianxia. Chapter 395. Faced with such decisive attacks from the 2 demon kings, Zuyun quickly threw another earth wall talisman behind him. This earth wall gave him a chance to breathe, just enough to open the bronze door of the demon refining tower again. There was only one golden dragon demon king, and Zuyun dared to make a move, so he could fight with him, and achieved miraculous results. But facing the 2 demon kings, he knew that he would definitely die. Even though they didn't show any murderous intent from the beginning to the end, they kept shouting to play with him. But a demon king of this level is very likely to kill himself if he is not careful. This is why he himself will attack the earth wall and just want to hide in the demon refining tower. Holding the golden dragon that turned into a snake with one hand, Zuyun's body flashed and he got into the bronze door. In an instant, the scene before his eyes reappeared, and he came to the mountain again. When he entered the light door on the 2nd floor, Zuyun felt an incomparable mysterious power flowing into his hands. He looked down and realized that this power was completely directed at the golden dragon. Under this power, Jin Jiao's momentum weakened a bit again. Zhu Yun suddenly understood that the demon refining tower obviously had a suppressive effect on the monsters. He already has no demon power, and he is suppressed. How about killing him and taking out the demon pill? I don't know if it will be useful to Sanggu, but it will definitely be a great tonic for you Kamang. After muttering to himself, Zhu Yun felt a little reluctant to give up. After all, he is a demon king who is comparable to the nascent soul stage. If I can surrender him. Isn't there a pasture in the immortal mansion, and the pasture can also suppress him, but the premise is that the golden dragon demon king needs to surrender first before he can take him inside. Boy, kill me if you dare. As if feeling what Zhu Yun was thinking, Jin Jiao roared angrily. But at this time, he was powerless, and was tightly held by 7 inches. Coupled with the suppression of the demon refining tower, he was unable to recover. For him, surrendering to a human race in the Dan-formation stage is a shame for his golden dragon clan. Even if there is only a trace of true dragon blood in his body, the arrogance in it will not make him bow down. Kill if you say you will. Zhu Yun looked at the slender golden dragon, which looked like a long golden whip. He grinned, took out a whip from the storage bag, and dropped the golden dragon casually on the ground. Boy, suffer death. The golden dragon has no demonic power in his body, but he can change his size at will. This is his innate instinct and has nothing to do with demonic power. He had been pinched by the door before, and he was unable to resist. But now that he was released, the only thing he could resist was his strong body. Not to mention that he didn't have demon power, even if he had it, he was suppressed to a lower level in the demon refining tower. As he shouted angrily, his body grew rapidly, from a small snake as thick as a finger to a golden python in the blink of an eye. Moreover, before he could stop, he opened his bloody mouth and lunged towards Zhu Yun. Zhu Yun was not afraid at all, and whipped him casually, "Get down." Boom. Jin Jiao only felt a dull sound in his head, as if the whip had struck a big bell on his demon soul. The sound lasts forever and reaches the depths of the demon soul. An inexplicable fear emerged from the bottom of his heart, but the true dragon bloodline controlled him at this moment, and he still rushed forward. Die to me. Hiss. Zhu Yun dodged nimbly and hid to one side. When the golden dragon hit the ground, he jumped lightly and at the same time, he gathered his strength and swung the whip 7 inches below him. Dong dong dong. Zhu Yun didn't know the whip technique, but he had learned the Wuji sword technique. Everything in your hand can be turned into a sword, and everything can be used with the Wuji sword technique. The soft whip hit the extremely hard dragon scales, and the force not only penetrated the flesh and blood, but a voice that frightened him sounded again in the golden dragon demon soul. Or 3 rings in a row. The golden dragon was in agony. Under the pain of both physical body and demon soul, he seemed like a newly unearthed earthworm, starting to roll and bounce. Zhu Yun's eyes widened and he whipped down again. It seems that this whip is very effective in dealing with monsters. Take advantage of this opportunity to subdue the golden dragon directly, and then make him surrender to you. Zhu Yun was immediately excited when he thought that he would have a subordinate who could compete with the Danja stage, and he was even more motivated to whip the golden dragon. The harder Zhu Yun exerted his strength, the more painful the golden dragon became. His consciousness became blurred and he could only keep wailing unconsciously. It wasn't until Jin Jiao was dying, even his physical strength had been exhausted, and he was lying on the ground half dead, that Zhu Yun stopped. "Master Demon King, do you accept it?" I saw him standing at the head of the dragon with a smile, holding the whip in one hand, and holding the other on the horn of the dragon. Jin Jiao didn't make a sound and could only respond with hard breathing. "Don't say anything? Then I'll assume that you are dissatisfied." Zhu Yun turned around and whipped down again. Crack. The sound of the whip was crisp, but to the golden dragon, it was like a knife cutting through the soul. "Hey, stop barking." The golden dragon was unable to wail at all, so Zuyun jumped down from the dragon's head with a sigh and stood directly in front of him. You can't even scream, and you definitely can't speak. So how do you know if he has surrendered? Zuyun scratched his head and stared at Jin Jiao's lantern-sized eyes. There was no sparkle in them. Yes, I have the art of breaking the void spirit eyes. He slapped his head suddenly and immediately activated the power of chaos. He felt a cool feeling coming, and Zuyun's vision changed. In the huge dragon's eyes, he could see a strong sense of resignation. Zuyun smiled immediately, and without saying anything, he stepped forward and put his hand on the golden dragon. Then, with a thought, he sent the golden dragon into the immortal mansion ranch. Originally, Zuyun wanted to go in again. After all, the ranch was spacious. What if he got lost? But he thought about it again. The golden dragon was almost dying from being tortured by him. It was almost the same as breathing less and breathing more. How could he still have the strength to run? Or find a safe place first and then go in? After pondering for a moment, Zuyun decided to find a suitable place on the second floor of the demon refining tower, but he didn't know his location. The Lord of Naihuo City knew it clearly. The demon refining tower was already his magic weapon, but due to the strength of the Lord of Naihuo City, he did not fully master the demon refining tower. So he only knew that Zuyun and the Golden Dragon King had just come out of the second floor, and he didn't know what happened to them. But when he was struggling to decide whether to come over and take a look to see if he could fish in troubled waters, he didn't expect that the golden dragon's breath suddenly disappeared. Was he killed by that kid? The Lord of Naihuo City was full of horror, but he felt it was impossible. Even though the Golden Dragon King had only 20% of his demon power when he was still outside the tower, even he was afraid of it. How could Zuyun, who was in the early stage of Jindan, kill the Golden Dragon? Even if the Golden Dragon was only equivalent to the Jindan stage after entering the tower, it was at least the peak of the late stage of Jindan. Moreover, there was a huge demon body and physical strength, which was definitely not something that the boy could contend with. Could it be that the boy used some supreme treasure? The Lord of Naihuo City's eyes lit up, thinking that even if Zuyun had a treasure, it would probably consume a lot. As one gains, the other loses, and he has almost no loss. Now he can go there and reap the benefits. Not only can he take the treasure for himself, but he can also kill this kid and absorb his flesh and blood through the demon refining tower to enhance his control. Thinking of this, the Lord of Naihuo City could no longer suppress his excitement and quickly rushed from the 9th floor. When he reached the 5th and 6th floors, he also summoned all the monsters. Zuyun has many tricks, so he has to be careful. Even if these monsters are suppressed to the corresponding realm when they return to the previous floors, he will not hesitate. Zuyun didn't know that he was being targeted when he entered the tower. After all, he would not be discovered when he entered the tower last time, and he even ignored the fact that the demon refining tower is now the magic weapon of the Lord of Naihuo City. When he finally found a good position and was ready to enter the mirror, the ground shook endlessly, which startled him. Are there still monsters on the 2nd floor? Impossible. Have I entered the illusion array again? He subconsciously used the breaking void spirit eye technique to look in the direction where the sound came from, and his face changed suddenly. In addition to the extremely real beast tide, there was also a person flying rapidly above. It was the Lord of Naihuo City. How could he find me? Zuyun frowned, looked at the monsters rushing towards him, and quickly pinched out a handful of Jushin Leifu from his hand and threw it out without hesitation. It was obvious that the Lord of Naihuo City came prepared. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. I started my cultivation by picking up the immortal skills. Author, Banzuan Xianxia. Chapter 396. Boy, I didn't expect you to survive the Golden Dragon Monster King. The Lord of Naihuo City roared and rushed towards Zuyun. When he saw Zuyun, he confirmed that there was no trace of the Golden Dragon Monster King, and he felt relieved. When he was outside the Demon Refining Tower, he was chased by the Golden Dragon Monster King and was in a mess, leaving a little shadow in his heart. But now, Zuyun is the only one left. Whether it is above the realm or he brought so many monsters, he is full of confidence. But he didn't wait for Zuyun's response, but was greeted by the dull thunder. Heavenly thunder. The Lord of Naihuo City, who was flying rapidly, stagnated and his face suddenly became ugly. Before he could stop the endless beast tide below, the sky full of thunder snakes surged down. Of course, even if he wanted to order these monsters to stop, he couldn't do it. Zuyun's stack of Tianli talismans was more than 20 or 30 pieces, and the range of use at the same time was very large. And these thunders have a restraining effect on these ordinary monsters, not to mention that they have come to the second floor and their own strength has been suppressed. Instantly, the thunder snake as thick as a bucket blasted a vacuum zone in the beast tide. The monsters hit were directly annihilated into ashes. No blood or flesh, no trace. Boy, die. The eyes of the Lord of Naihuo City were about to burst, and he was in great pain. When he was desperate outside the Demon Refining Tower, he almost released all the monsters in the tower. As a result, by mistake, he hid back in the Demon Refining Tower. This group of beasts was the only monster left in the tower. But Zuyun killed more than 100 of them with several talismans. With a roar, the Lord of Naihuo City raised his hand, and a fan flew out of the ring between his fingers. While rushing over, he slammed towards Zuyun. Woo! The fan magic weapon fanned out not only wind, but also a sea of fire. Zuyun's pupils shrank, and when he felt the boundless heat wave, he secretly thought it was not good. But then he was relieved. As a strong man in Chuzhu, it is not surprising to have a spiritual fire. Zuyun's mind moved, and he already had a countermeasure in his mind. However, since the Lord of Naihuo City took the initiative, he still needed to avoid the sharp edge for the time being. After a few thunder escape techniques, Zuyun had already escaped from the range of the Sea of Fire. Boy, let me show you how my Sea of Fire is different from others. The Lord of Naihuo City waved his fan again, and the Sea of Fire suddenly surged, with an overwhelming momentum, and came towards Zuyun. Faintly, Zuyun heard a series of gloomy smiles. He glanced at the beast tide, and those monsters did not stop. If he sacrificed the burning sky flame here, he would not be able to help. Then he had to stay away from these monsters for the time being. Zuyun was not afraid of these beast tides, but now he seemed to be fighting 1 against 3, and he could be hurt by either side. Without 100,000 confidence, Zuyun would not attack aggressively. So, he took out a few giant wave talismans and threw them towards the Sea of Fire. Crash! 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 Several huge waves turned into palms and appeared out of thin air, rushing towards the Sea of Fire. Ha ha ha, kid, water can overcome fire, but how can you put out my earth fire with just a few waves? The Lord of Naihuo City laughed like crazy, and the fire suddenly rose, instantly shattering these huge waves. The water mist rose, making a hissing sound. Huh? Why doesn't it evaporate directly? The Lord of Naihuo City exclaimed lightly. How could he know that this giant wave talisman was not an ordinary giant wave talisman at all, but a giant wave talisman comparable to the nascent soul stage? It's just that the giant wave talisman has no offensive and defensive capabilities, and can only rely on the wave force to attack. Facing the earth fire that is far more powerful than this, it naturally cannot extinguish it but is instead shattered. The Lord of Naihuo City thought that Zuyun was already at the end of his strength. In his opinion, the giant wave talisman could only let Zuyun live for a few more breaths. But he never thought that Zuyun wanted these few breaths of time to lead him to another place and separate from the beast tide. With the help of the water mist, Zuyun sneered in his heart and fled to the distance with a few thunder escape techniques. The Lord of Naihuo City was connected with the demon refining tower and immediately found his position. Boy, you will die sooner or later. Do you think you can run away? He took back the earth fire with a casual hand and chased after Zuyun at the same time. If you can't even deal with my sea of fire, then there is no need to go up to this beast tide, lest he jumps off the wall in desperation and makes me lose in vain. The Lord of Naihuo City thought so in his heart, and soon locked Zuyun's position. Seeing that he was still fleeing in panic, the Lord of Naihuo City was even more confident of victory. By the way, this kid is very good at running. If he runs out of the demon refining tower, then my monsters will die in vain. The Lord of Naihuo City knew that he could not catch up with Zuyun in a short time, and he was thinking about countermeasures in his heart, and then he gave instructions to the beasts. The speed of the beasts slowed down, and when they stopped completely, they turned around and surrounded the light gate of the passage. He, let's see where you can run this time. The Lord of Naihuo City showed a grim smile, and now Zuyun could only move on this floor. It was impossible to go anywhere next. He only needed to wait until Zuyun's spiritual power was exhausted, and he could decide whether this kid was round or flat. The Lord of Naihuo City was not in a hurry at all, which was exactly what Zuyun wanted. He used the escape technique while falling to the ground. Previously, he only wanted to lure the Lord of Naihuo City out, and then use heavenly fire against earthly fire, while he himself dealt with him. With his current means, even if he can't fight head-on, he can still drag on for some time. As long as Fen Tianyan engulfed his earthly fire, it would take some time at most to kill him with two enemies against one. But if the Lord of Naihuo City wants to escape, can he intercept him? Zuyun was not very sure. But now, I can completely distance myself and set up some formations. Whether it is the 9 turns 9 yang formation or the continuous self-destruction formation, it can have surprising effects. Zuyun's eyes flashed, and he was planning in his mind while escaping, trying to make sure he never came back. At this time, outside the demon refining tower, the Tiger Demon King and the Monkey Demon King returned to their human form and stared at the bronze door for a long time. After a long while, the Tiger Demon King said, "Shao Monkey, what do you think we should do now? Come out of it, I don't dare to go back again." The Monkey Demon King murmured, "You think I want to go back? But we have not completely disconnected from the demon refining tower. Even if we leave like this, that person will still have a chance to surrender them in the future. Then let's run further away and don't stay here. At present, we can't kill him for the time being." The Tiger Demon King was not as cautious as the Monkey Demon King, so he directly suggested. The Monkey Demon King sighed and said, "Originally, I wanted to stay here to practice and simply guard the demon refining tower, but that kid at the core formation stage just now made me feel that it was extremely difficult. If I join forces with the new tower master, I'm afraid we don't get a happy ending. That guy was smart and just ran away. Shall we run too? How about running to the 100,000 mountains?" After listening to the Tiger Demon King's words, the Monkey Demon King thought for a long time and then said, "Shiwandashan is not a good place to go. What if you meet the Ye family? I have a good plan, what do you think?" "Explain." "Jin Peng escaped from the tower. Although he paid a price, I think he is alive and well. How about, let's go find him?" The Tiger Demon King's eyes suddenly lit up and he said happily, "Yeah, how could you forget him? This bird man was cruel enough to himself, cutting off half of the demon soul to blind the demon refining tower. I just don't know, after we find him, can he still recognize us?" "Ha ha ha," the Monkey Demon King laughed and said, "It's better if you don't recognize him. Haven't you wanted to beat him up for a long time? Let's take a look. In my opinion, he will definitely be in Shiwan Das Han. As long as we meet just hide, then the Ye family will not be hurt. The two demon kings hit it off immediately and flew towards Chuzhu. Until far away from here, a figure emerged from the swamp. Phew, I was scared to death. There are no monsters now, right? Zhu Feng was disgraced, covered in mud and water, and the stench was extremely bad. After Jian and others separated from him, Zhu Feng came here alone. Who would have thought that their trip was in vain? They were frightened by these demon kings and fled in all directions. Even Jian has forgotten Zhu Feng, let alone the others. Zhu Feng didn't know that he had been abandoned. Of course, even if he knew, he wouldn't care much. The reason why he hid in the swamp was because he also encountered a tide of beasts. Those high-level monsters left one after another after the Demon King left. Even one would scare Zhu Feng to death. Not to mention, he met a group of people. In order to survive, Zhu Feng jumped into the swamp without hesitation and approached the demon refining tower. I thought I could meet Jian here. He knew that Jian was very protective of him, but what he didn't expect was that not only was there no one here, but there were also two demon kings with extremely terrifying auras. He was afraid of returning, but he got a lot of information from the demon king's conversation. At this time, all his eyes fell on the demon refining tower, and the greed in his eyes flashed from time to time. If you take this tower for your own use. I started my cultivation by picking up the immortal skills. Author, Banzuan Xianxia. Chapter 397. In the tower. Zhu Yun finally pulled away from the Lord of Naihuo City by more than 100 miles before landing on the ground. With the speed of the Lord of Naihuo City, it was enough for him to set up the chain of self-destruction arrays. The reason why the 9-turn 9-yang array was not used was because of the characteristics of the 9-turn 9-yang array. If the arrangement was too simple, it would not be able to trap the late Jindan peak of the Lord of Naihuo City. If the arrangement was stronger, with his attainments, he might be discovered. It is better to use a simple self-destruction array. Zhu Yun took out a handful of spirit stones and laid more than 40 of them. Then, he used the spirit guiding array to connect these self-destruction arrays in series. After doing all this, he pretended to regulate his breath and then sat cross-legged. He was very sure that the Lord of Naihuo City could determine his position, so he only needed to wait and see. Not long after, a figure flew in the distant sky. The flames on the Lord of Naihuo City from time to time showed that he was ready to take action at any time. When Zhu Yun stopped, he had already felt it, and guessed in his heart that Zhu Yun relaxed his mind. And what he had to do was to quickly kill him with the earth fire before Zhu Yun found him. Boy, you are really bold. Let's see where you can run this time. The Lord of Naihuo City stopped far away, and then carefully called out his earth fire, and then divided his troops into two groups and attacked Zhu Yun. He held his breath completely, and Zhu Yun couldn't find it at all with his realm. Even the earth fire, under his instruction, completely put away the heat. It's a pity that Zhu Yun knew that Naihuo City had come. In his heart, the fire spirit pearl flashed a red light from time to time, that was the burning sky flame agitating in the space inside the pearl. As a sky fire, the sensitivity of the spirit fire is far greater than Zhu Yun. Even if the Lord of Naihuo City's earth fire completely restrained his breath, it could not stop the instinctive induction of the burning sky flame. Let's see how close you can get. Zhu Yun silently chanted in his heart, constantly comforting the burning sky flame. During the time he stayed in the fire spirit pearl, Fen Tianyan not only improved his strength, but also recovered a lot of his intelligence. But he was still controlled by Zhu Yun. In order to completely deceive the Lord of Naihuo City and let him relax, Zhu Yun took out a few spiritual stones and put them in his hands to absorb and refine. Seeing this, the Lord of Naihuo City smiled grimly and was extremely happy. He is still practicing, so he will not be discovered. This kid, I am afraid he will not understand until his death that I will find him so quickly. For a long while, Zuyun was already within the attack range of the Lord of Naihuo City and the Earth Fire. He was trying to stay calm, fearing that he would reveal clues and alarm the Lord of Naihuo City. But fortunately, the Lord of Naihuo City did not dare to believe that Zuyun, who had been running away, would design a counterattack against him. Finally, the Lord of Naihuo City felt that it was almost done, so he waved his hand. Huh! As the earth fire instantly turned into a sea of fire and fell from the sky towards Zuyun, he also held the folding fan magic weapon in his hand and waved it towards Zuyun. The fire took advantage of the wind, and the sea of fire transformed by the earth fire suddenly surged and grew more than twice. And Zuyun deliberately showed a panic expression, as if responding to an emergency, and sacrificed the burning sky flame. Boom! The burning sky flame could no longer hold back. After receiving Zuyun's order, it rushed towards the sea of fire like a hungry lion for 10 days and a half months. This kid also has spiritual fire. A look of astonishment flashed across the face of the Lord of Naihuo City, but then he saw the panic in Zuyun's eyes. It turns out that this kid is also afraid. Immediately, he threw the astonishment behind his mind and rushed over with the folding fan. This folding fan can not only help the fire, but also is a top-grade magic weapon. Infinite power and endless uses. Unfortunately, Zuyun had already made all the calculations. Seeing that the Lord of Naihuo City wanted to take him down, he turned and ran. Using the thunder escape technique on the ground, he could easily control the direction and distance. With a flash, he was 200 steps away. The attack of the Lord of Naihuo City missed, and the spiritual power driven by the fan directly hit the place where he was sitting before. Boom! This attack immediately triggered the spirit-inducing formation. The formation pattern flashed and caught the eyes of the Lord of Naihuo City. Good boy, is he plotting against me? The Lord of Naihuo City was furious. There was indeed a formation in the demon refining tower, but the second floor was the same as the first floor, with only illusion formations. Moreover, these illusion formations were all under his control. But there was no formation here. So it could only be set by Zuyun. How strong can your formation be for a mere Jindan stage? The Lord of Naihuo City was afraid that Zuyun would be frightened and run away again, so it would be troublesome for him to chase him. So he frantically surged the spiritual power in his body and chased after Zuyun. And his direction happened to pass above the self-destructing chain array. As soon as he arrived, the self-destructing array was also triggered. Every 5 spiritual stones, the spiritual power intertwined. In the blink of an eye, dozens of self-destructing arrays were all triggered. At this time, the Lord of Naihuo City rushed to the center of this self-destructing array. Boom! 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 Even though he was in the air, he felt the boundless and terrifying spiritual power turbulence of the self-destructing array. The surging spiritual power, from bottom to top, the huge spiritual power, almost tore him apart every time it surged. What kind of array is this? It's so strong. The Lord of Naihuo City was shocked and sweating. He had never felt this way when he was chased by the golden dragon outside the demon refining tower. At the critical moment, he frantically waved his folding fan in his hand, and he didn't care that he was here to chase Zuyun. If he chased him again, he would lose his life. On the other side, his earth fire was fighting with the burning sky flame. The burning sky flame was of high grade, but it had not fully recovered. Compared with the earth fire in its heyday, the fire was relatively small. In this way, the two fires were evenly matched. But under the urgent call of the Lord of Naihuo City, it quickly went back to support, and the burning sky flame took the opportunity to engulf a piece of fire. The Lord of Naihuo City had no time to care about the loss of the earth fire. He flew into the sky, trying to stay as far away from the spiritual power turbulence of the self-destruction array as possible, and on the other hand, he wanted the earth fire to help him resist a little. But he never expected it. The earth fire that rushed over was followed by the extremely greedy burning sky flame. By the time the ground fire completely rushed into the spiritual power turbulence, the fire was only halfway there. Stop, stop, stop. Zuyun was far away, and through the spirit-fire symbiosis art, he immediately knew that Burning Sky Flame was a little bit overwhelmed, and quickly ordered Burning Sky Flame to stop. If Burning Sky Flame was blown up, he would have no place to cry. Boom. Just when Burning Sky Flame just stopped, the power of the self-destruction array finally erupted at this moment. On the ground, all the spiritual power turbulence rushed in, and Burning Sky Flame was immediately overturned. Fen Tianyan finally stabilized his body, and then fled. Zuyun secretly laughed. This Burning Sky Flame's mind was still like a child. Fortunately, he reacted quickly, otherwise if he entered the range of the self-destruction array, the consequences would be disastrous. He looked up and locked on the Naihuo city lord who was trying to escape. Not far below him, there was a sea of fire. But at this time, the sea of fire seemed to have suffered a divine punishment, and was constantly torn apart by the turbulent flow of spiritual power. It must be said that the decision of the Lord of Naihuo City was indeed good, and the power of the self-destruction array was blocked a lot. But some turbulent flow of spiritual power still hit his body. There were cracks on the protective clothing, and when he jumped up quickly, it was blown by the wind and made a rustling sound. Finally, at the cost of damaging the earth fire, the Lord of Naihuo City stayed away from the center of the explosion. After the spiritual power around him calmed down, he looked down and left an endless abyss on the ground, as if staring at him. And between him and the abyss, there was a faint flame swaying. This is his earth fire. Damn it! The Lord of Naihuo City was furious, and his eyes suddenly looked at Zuyun, with murderous intent, vowing to tear Zuyun to pieces. Boy, I'm going to kill you. After that, he held a folding fan in his hand, and the spiritual power in his body rushed to his limbs and bones. In hundreds of years of cultivation, he had never been as embarrassed as today. Fire! While flying, he shouted again, trying to call the earth fire back into his lower abdomen to warm it up. But he never thought. Another ball of fire suddenly rushed from a distance and engulfed his earth fire in one gulp. My fire! The Lord of Naihuo City immediately sensed that he had lost his mental connection with the earth fire, and looked at the burning sky flame not far away with an incredible face. At such a close distance, he finally recognized it and screamed, "This is the sky fire!" At this time, Zuyun also moved. He stretched out his right hand, and the black sword appeared in his hand out of thin air. The earth fire has been extinguished, and the time has come. Next, it is to kill the Lord of Naihuo City. I started my cultivation by picking up the immortal skills. Author, Banzuan Xianxia. Chapter 398. Everything Zuyun did was beyond the expectations of Naihuo City Lord. He was seen holding a black sword in his hand, and after a few thunder escape techniques, he was already directly under the Lord of Naihuo City. Wake it up for me. Zuyun suddenly thrust his sword upwards, which was also a move in the Wuji sword technique. In other words, any sword move belongs to the Wuji sword technique. As the tip of his sword pointed directly at the Naihuo City Lord in the sky, countless sword energy transformed from thunder spirit power sword into the sky. Shuzi, you dare! The Lord of Naihuo City roared loudly, withdrew his gaze from Fen Tianyan, and slapped his fan on the ground with his backhand. The wind is blowing. As soon as he finished speaking, an endless tornado flew out of the fan and swept towards Zuyun. This is far worse than my ice tornado. Zuyunjian's eyes condensed, and a gleam of light shone through his eyes. The void-breaking spiritual eye technique immediately found the weakness of the tornado. Eye of the Storm. The talisman on the second page of the Tianfu fragment is an Ice Dragon Scroll talisman. It not only introduces the drawing method of the talisman, but also specifically introduces all the dragon scrolls, which are essentially the same. It's just that in the ice tornado, ice spiritual power is the main source of power. Same reason. Of all the tornadoes, the eye of the wind is the calmest place. Facing the oncoming tornado, Zuyun just slightly adjusted the tip of his sword, and the subsequent sword energy transformed by the thunder spirit force immediately adjusted its direction and went straight towards the eye of the wind. It's a pity that the Naihuo city lord was so angry that he had no idea what the meaning of Zuyun's action was. He had already imagined that Zuyun was sucked into the air by a tornado and was killed by him without any resistance. But the thunder spirit sword energy passing through the center of the tornado's eye ruthlessly shattered his illusions. What's going on? Seeing the roaring purple sword energy, the expression on the Backfire City Lord's face froze. The thunder spirit power is extremely fast, and it comes out from the eye of the wind, without being affected at all. By the time he saw it, it was already too late. Zi La. The Lord of Naihuo City felt numb all over, and his eyes were full of purple electric light, and he had lost control of his body. In this way, his body fell quickly, and at the same time, his right hand could no longer hold the fan, let alone maintain the tornado through the fan weapon. The tornado disappeared between heaven and earth in the blink of an eye. After a few breaths, the Lord of Backfire City was wrapped in lightning and fell heavily to the ground. Bang! A cloud of yellow dust rose up from the ground, and Zuyun flashed his body and reached out to catch the fan weapon. However, he didn't look much, instead he threw the fan into his storage bag, and then his eyes fell on the Lord of Backfire City not far away. Little thief. Seeing Zuyun walking towards him, Naihuo City Lord was slurring his words and was filled with panic. The Wuji sword technique used by Lei Lingli is like Zuyun's sword energy, which can kill enemies across levels. Even though the power of the sword energy was weakened due to the distance, it still seriously injured the Lord of Naihuo City. Zuyun didn't respond at all, but stabbed Naihuo City Lord in the abdomen with his sword. The black sword was extremely sharp and passed through his body. Not only did it pierce his body, it also stabbed the golden elixir in half. Ho, ho. The Lord of Backfire City's eyes suddenly bulged, and the numbness caused by the thunder spirit power prevented him from feeling much pain. But the vitality quickly passed away at this moment. Until all the spiritual power in his body dissipates out of his body, his vitality is gone. Bang! The slightly raised head hit the ground. The Lord of Naihuo City died. His eyes are wide open and he won't close his eyes to death. He could never have imagined that not only would he die in the demon refining tower that he had refined, but he would also die in the hands of Zuyun, who was in the early stages of forming a pill. Call. Zuyun put away the black sword, recalled Fen Tianyan into the fire spirit beat in his heart, and then breathed a long sigh of relief. Although he had the upper hand in this battle, there were several accidents. The self-destruction formation did not kill him directly. The Wuji sword technique did not kill him directly. It's so difficult to deal with a person at the peak of the core formation stage. If you encounter the nascent soul stage, it will be even harder. But I only have the early stage of the core formation. If I want to achieve it quickly, I need to make the golden dragon obey and return to its full strength. State. Zuyun poured his spiritual consciousness onto the Lord of Naihuo City, trying to find his storage bag. This time he spent several hundred yuan in spiritual stones, hoping to get some money back from him. As for the magical weapon of the fan, Zuyun planned to keep it for his own use. After all, it can fuel the fire, and it might also have an effect on Fen Tianyan. Just a moment later, Zuyun frowned. It's strange, there is no storage bag, but he clearly took out the fan out of thin air before. There is no storage bag, where did he take it out? After wondering for a long time, Zuyun's eyes fell on the simple ring on the middle finger of the corpse's right hand. This is a far superior magical weapon, a good thing. He controlled the object through the air, used his spiritual power to remove the ring, and planned to throw it into the storage bag. Unexpectedly, the ring fell to the ground. Huh? What's going on? Zuyun was stunned for a moment, but soon thought of a similar scene. When the ranch fragments were not fused, I couldn't enter the Dewu glazed mirror in the secret realm at all, because it was the same space. And since this ring cannot be thrown into the storage bag, does that mean, this ring is Sumeru ring? Thinking of this, Zuyun's eyes lit up, and he put the ring directly on his hand, and then stepped into the Dewu glass mirror. Outside the demon refining tower, Zhu Feng, who was carefully observing the tower, was suddenly startled. He saw the black air wrapped around the tower suddenly retracted into the tower. The reason why he kept observing the black air was because he felt that this black air was particularly similar to the breath of devouring magic power he practiced in magic. But before he tried to find out what was wrong with the black air was gone. He didn't know that this was a sign that the demon refining tower had changed from a magic weapon with an owner to a magic weapon without an owner. The black air is gone for no reason, why not release my black air and try? Zhu Feng didn't know why this idea came up in his mind, so he condensed a trace of his devouring magic power and slowly rushed towards the tower. But when he approached the tower suddenly generated a suction force, and Zhu Feng had no choice but to react. His devouring magic power was connected to the tower. Zhu Feng felt a sharp pain in his head and couldn't help but take a breath of cold air. But after taking half a breath, he couldn't control himself and was excited all over. In his mind, a whole new world appeared. At a light gate, demons gathered together. A quick glance showed that there were tens of thousands of demon beasts here. This was clearly the scene inside the demon refining tower. If I can devour these demon beasts, there will be absolutely no problem in breaking through the middle stage, not to mention the peak of the late stage of foundation building. Zhu Feng, who originally wanted to find a way to refine the demon refining tower for his own use, was even more impatient at this time. But reason told him that he should plan before acting and not be greedy for temporary gains. Resisting the greed in his heart, Zhu Feng tried to establish a connection with the demon refining tower. After a few breaths, he felt as if his soul had left his body. When he was completely in the group of demon beasts, he tried to pass through the demon beasts and walk towards the light gate. Another flash in front of his eyes, and Zuyun came to the third floor. He looked back at the light gate he came out of and continued to move forward. The fourth floor. The fifth floor. The sixth floor. The ninth floor. Zhu Feng walked all the way to the light gate that did not go up any further before he stopped. The ninth floor was extremely narrow. It was not much different from the valley under the sword cliff of the Spirit Sword sect. In front of him, there were 12 stone sculptures of monsters made of unknown origin. Zhu Feng recognized 2 of them. They were the Monkey Demon King and the Tiger Demon King. The rest had different shapes, but Zhu Feng had no time to look at them. He set his sights on a huge blood pool in front of the stone sculpture. In the blood pool, blood was rolling, but strangely, there was no smell at all. In the center of the blood pool, there was a platform that looked like an altar. There were endless and complex patterns carved under the platform. He only took a look and felt dizzy, as if his brain was hit by a heavy hammer. He quickly retracted his gaze and fell on a bulge on the platform. There was a black sphere on it. Zhu Feng only took a look and felt his body being sucked in uncontrollably. He felt light all over his body, flying over the blood pool, over the altar, and finally he fell into the endless darkness. At this time, in the Dao glass mirror, Zuyun sat cross-legged on the stone bed and took the burning sky flame back into his heart. Just now, after he confirmed that this was a magical weapon beyond the top grade, he chose to let the burning sky flame refine it. The burning sky flame is worthy of being the heavenly fire. Not long after, he burned away all the remaining breath of the Lord of the Naihuo city on the ring, turning it into an ownerless object. Next, he only needs to drip his own blood to make the ring recognize the owner. Zuyun bit his fingertips and dripped his blood. Boom! An extremely huge force appeared out of thin air in the purple mansion. Zuyun was caught off guard, his eyes turned black and his body leaned back. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. I started my cultivation by picking up the immortal skills. Author, Banzuan Xianxia. Chapter 399. Compared with Zuyun, Zhu Feng's situation at this time is not necessarily much better. The Demon Refining Tower is an ancient magic weapon that has been passed down for countless years. How could he, a boy in the foundation building stage, covet it? But I have to say that Zhu Feng's luck is extremely good. The demonic skills he practiced were very similar to the Demon Refining Tower. For example, all the flesh and blood creatures in the Demon Refining Tower that were killed and devoured by the monsters outside can be stored in the Demon Refining Tower for the use of the tower owner. The reason why the Lord of Naihuo City released such a huge wave of monster beasts and massacred them from Chuzhu was because of this thought. Even if he is at the peak of the late stage of pill formation, it is extremely difficult for him to fully master the Demon Refining Tower. The previous control of a Demon King level Golden Dragon was insufficient, let alone Zhu Feng at this time. But now there is no Demon King in the entire Demon Refining Tower, only those demon beasts on the second level are still greatly reduced in number. This undoubtedly reduced a lot of pressure for Zhu Feng. But he had no idea that what he entered into the black ball was his soul. No one knows, including himself, that the soul will gradually merge with the Demon Refining Tower. All of this is due to his practice of swallowing demons. I don't know how long it took, but Zhu Fengyu woke up. He opened his eyes and found that at some point, his consciousness had returned to his body. In front of him, there was still the weird and magnificent Demon Refining Tower. The black energy surrounding the tower was exactly the same as Zhu Feng's demonic power. What makes him even more delighted is that this tower has become his natal magic weapon. This was still Zhu Feng's luck. Ever since he started cultivating immortality, he had never been mentally connected to a magical weapon. Even after he got Moxie's soul-calling banner, Zhu Feng didn't shed his blood to recognize him as his master. Only in this way can he perfectly integrate with the Demon Refining Tower. Otherwise, even if Zhu Feng could gain control of the Demon Refining Tower, he would be seriously injured. Tang Zhuyang, you are really good. What is the most important thing in cultivating immortality? Of course it is immortality. Zhu Feng just smiled strangely, and then his mind moved. In an instant, the Demon Refining Tower, which was more than 10 feet high, rumbled, rose up from the swamp, and began to slowly shrink. After a moment, it completely flew into Zhu Feng's palm. Yes. However, my realm is still too weak. As long as my realm improves, it would be good to catch some monsters or monks and throw them in. Zhu Feng laughed ferociously and threw the Demon Refining Tower out again. The Demon Refining Tower quickly grew in size again, returning to its original size. Zhu Feng, on the other hand, stretched out his hand slightly, and the bronze door suddenly opened, and he walked over calmly. Let them all become the power to improve my realm. Zhu Feng passed through the light door and suddenly appeared among the monster beasts on the second floor. Whoops! Feeling the suppression of Zhu Feng through the Demon Refining Tower, all the demon beasts knelt down at the same time. No matter what kind they were, they all stuck their bodies to the ground, and the same was true for their heads. Zuyun smiled even more and reached out to grab the neck of a monster beside him. You can hear needles falling all around. The intelligence of these monsters is actually not shallow. It can be seen that Zhu Feng is sucking the life and flesh of the same kind. The rapidly drying body is visible to the naked eye. They can also feel the collapse of vitality. But the suppression of their demon souls by the demon refining tower made them stay silent and dare not move. They could only watch helplessly as that companion became part of the demonic spiritual power in Zhu Feng's body. It's really good. Until this monster turned into a mummy, Zhu Feng suddenly opened his eyes, and a frightening light shot out of his eyes. He licked his lips and said something, then extended his hand to another monster. So back and forth. The increase in strength made all the fatigue from running around during this period disappear. At this time, Zuyun also woke up quietly in the cave of Xianfu. With a look of extreme shock on his face, he looked at the ring on his middle finger and murmured, "Fortunately, my soul is strong enough, otherwise the remnant in this ring would have almost merged with my soul. Fortunately, I have the heavenly fire to refine part of it." I wish Yun the rest of his life, and secretly said in his heart that he must be more careful when encountering these magical weapons of unknown origin again in the future. Sometimes the things you get don't necessarily belong to you. The reason why he fell into coma was because the residual thoughts in the ring broke into his purple mansion, thus subtly affecting his sanity. And after completely defeating and engulfing this remnant, he also got more information. This ring is indeed a space sumi ring. The space inside is huge. The items that can be stored are much wider than the storage bag. Moreover, it is much more convenient to store and retrieve things than a storage bag. As long as the mind is connected, all it takes is a thought. And this kind of magic weapon, to be precise, has gone beyond the scope of magic weapon. At least Zuyun's understanding of weapon refining is completely blank in this aspect. Also, when Sun Suanhua taught him, he was only in the foundation building stage, and his top attainments were only for the entire Yao realm. And this kind of ring is rare in the Peepa realm. By devouring Ken Nian, Zuyun also obtained information about the ring. For example, the original owner of this ring was a late-stage nascent soul peaker. It was the person who met the Lord of Naihuo City, a supreme elder from the Peepa realm demon control sect. He was stuck in the late stage of nascent soul's peak for more than 100 years, unable to go to the spiritual world, let alone trigger a breakthrough in the mortal world. In desperation, he decided to move to one of the forbidden places in Yao realm, the demon refining tower. By consulting the classics, he learned that the demon refining tower is a supreme treasure. But he cannot enter it, otherwise the realm will be suppressed by the demon refining tower. Under this situation, he thought of finding someone to help him refine the demon refining tower, and then exchange it for the supreme skill. After staying in Chuzhu for a while, he set his sights on the Lord of Naihuo City. First of all, the city is huge and has a lot of people. Secondly, the Lord of Naihuo City is a casual cultivator and has no worries. He only cares about becoming stronger. Because of this, with his help, the Lord of Naihuo City deceived more than 10,000 monks and 4th-level demon beasts into offering blood sacrifices, broke the connection between the demon refining tower and the 10,000 demon sect, and brought it out. But who would have thought that the Lord of Naihuo City has a firm heart, and the impact of that residual thought on him is extremely limited. Although the Lord of Naihuo City still retained the idea of finding the nascent soul ancestor, he was no longer so determined. This is really a hot potato. Zuyun frowned. There was no information about how to refine the demon refining tower. On the contrary, the demon refining tower can not only suppress thousands of demons, but also swallow the flesh and blood of the demon beasts in them, which makes Zuyun feel a little uneasy in his heart. No, it's better to leave quickly. Who knows if the Yuanying ancestor will come back to take this monster refining tower. As for those monsters, I will kill those that can be killed. I can't do anything about those that can't be killed. Zuyun took a deep breath and touched the ring. Just as he was about to leave the immortal mansion, he remembered that the golden dragon had been thrown into the pasture by him. I don't know if he's dead or not. Immediately, Zuyun decided to go over and take a look. If Sango and Zhao Kamang kill him, it will be very bad. Thinking of this, Zuyun took out his whip, entered the pasture, and immediately rushed to the lake. Before people reached the lower ground, they heard the roars of Zhao Kamang and the red candle beast. He secretly thought something was wrong, and quickly transformed into a metal spirit body, and immediately understood the conversation between them. The red candle beast shouted loudly, "Old Zhao, don't kill this little snake." Zhao Kamang said, "This golden snake is too weak. I don't know how the owner got it in. Is it responsible for drilling holes?" Sangu laughed and said, "Old Zhao, how dare you think? I've only heard of mice making holes. How can the snake make holes?" Zhao Kamang said contemptuously, "You old dog, where did you live for thousands of years? Haven't you seen the snake with horns on its top?" "Ha ha," Sangu said even more disdainfully, "you also have horns on your head, why don't you know how to drill holes? You bitch, eat my corner." Zuyun listened to the conversation between these three living treasures and almost laughed like a pig. If he has a way, he must let the golden dragon demon king fully recover his strength, then show up in his true form and teach them a lesson. But obviously, Zuyun couldn't help it. The only thing that can be done now is to stop these three guys quickly, but don't kill the golden dragon. This will help me break into the Peeper realm in the future. Zuyun quickly flew to the top of the short hill. "Stop!" There was a loud shout, and the surrounding area fell silent instantly. I started my cultivation by picking up the immortal skills. Author, Banzuan Xianxia. Chapter 400. Master, you are here. The red candle beast ran forward in a panic. Zuyun glanced at him and set his eyes on the golden dragon. He had no demonic power, his body was injured by the thunder spirit power, and his demon soul was whipped by the whip. He really looked like an ordinary demon beast. "Old Zhao, Sango, don't mess with him. If you kill him, it will be difficult for me to go to Peeper realm in the future." Hearing this, Sango was shocked and said quickly, "Master, are you going to Peeper realm to help me get revenge?" Zhao Kamang said, "Come on, what grudge do you have in Peeper realm? Could it be that when you were guarding the door before, someone yelled at you and you held a grudge?" Zuyun had no choice. The two were simply enemies. He simply ignored them and squatted in front of the golden dragon and said lightly, "If you still want to be the demon king, you will submit to me. Otherwise, you can see that these ordinary demon beasts here can step on your head." The golden dragon raised his head with difficulty and then nodded a few times. Zuyun continued, "If you need to tell them anything, don't harbor any evil intentions, otherwise, you will surely die." After that, Zuyun stood up and turned to look at Zhao Kamang and Sangu, intending to tell them a few words to take good care of the golden dragon. Who knew that the two were dumbfounded, their faces full of disbelief. After a long while, Sangu said, Master, you said he is the demon king." "Yes, the demon king." Zuyun responded indifferently, saying, "But even if it is the demon king, you can rest assured." Compared to Sangu, Zhao Kamang was more stable. He ordered, "Old Zhao, when he can move, you take good care of him and try to recover his injuries and demon power as much as possible." "Yes, master." Zhao Kamang came back to his senses and agreed repeatedly. After saying some more precautions, Zuyun was about to leave when the red candle beast ran over and said, "Master, what about me?" Looking at the red candle beast covered in flames, Zuyun suddenly remembered the magic weapon he had found from the Lord of Naihuo City, and couldn't help but smile and said, "If you want, follow me." After saying that, he flashed and floated away. The red candle beast didn't understand why, but he would never disobey Zuyun's orders, so he quickly followed. Zhao Kamang and the three dogs looked at each other, thinking that Zuyun didn't call them, so they stayed and planned to get close to the demon king. Zuyun led the red candle beast and ran more than 10 miles before stopping. "Master, I..." The red candle beast was in a panic. Zuyun didn't say what he wanted to see him for from beginning to end. "Don't be nervous, I'll show you a treasure." Zuyun laughed, then turned back into human form and took out the fan from the newly obtained ring. After refining the ring, he threw everything in the storage bag into the ring, but he didn't pay much attention to the fan. But he knew that this was an ordinary high-grade magic weapon. But when the Lord of Naihuo City used it, it could make his earth fire more powerful. After the burning sky flame devoured the earth fire, it was sleeping in Zuyun's fire spirit pearl. Although he could also use the chaos force to transform the fire spirit, it was better not to use the red candle beast to test it. The red candle beast was still confused. Unlike Sangu and Zhao Kamang, he was a pure demon beast and didn't understand human language. After Zuyun turned into a human form, he couldn't communicate. Under the tension in his heart, the flames on his body were subconsciously retracted. Seeing this, Zuyun was immediately happy, and simply poured the spiritual power into the magic weapon and fanned the red candle beast. Hula! With a slight sound, a gust of wind rushed towards the red candle beast, and at the same time, the flames on his body suddenly surged. "It's really useful." Zuyun was overjoyed. He had never had a top-grade magic weapon, and top-grade magic weapons were not like rings, which could get more information from them. The effect of using it at this time was far beyond his expectations. Not only Zuyun, but even the red candle beast was stunned on the spot. The flames on his body were naturally transformed by his demonic power. In layman's terms, how much demonic power can be transformed into how much flame, depends on his realm. And the red candle beast is just an ordinary enlightened demon beast, not yet to the level of understanding human language, and its realm is only equivalent to the ordinary foundation building period. But at this time, the flow of fire on his body gave him a very mysterious feeling. Suddenly, the red candle beast suddenly felt that a pure heat flow came from his demon pill. Whew! The flames surged again by double, and even Zuyun was not careful for a while and was almost burned. Fortunately, he reacted very quickly and dodged after taking a few steps with the Changshengju. "What's going on?" he asked, but got no response. Then he remembered that the red candle beast didn't understand his words. When he was about to turn into a metal spirit to ask questions, he found that the red candle beast had closed its eyes. The whole body was like a burning spiritual fire. The difference was that when looking into the flame from outside, there was a looming figure outline. "This is..." Zuyun frowned slightly, and then used the Pakuling Jingju. Instantly, he was overjoyed. Breakthrough! I didn't expect this fan to make the red candle beast break through. Zuyun had never seen a monster beast break through, and this was the first time he saw it. It was very novel. Through the Pakuling Jingju, he could see the skyrocketing monster power, which was completely different from spiritual power. These demonic powers kept flowing through the whole body of the red candle beast, and it looked like he was circulating the chi while refining. Originally, Zuyun was going to test the specific effect of the fan magic weapon and leave, but he never expected the red candle beast to break through in one fell swoop. In case of any accidents, Zuyun stayed. Although the red candle beast was subdued by him by accident, it was extremely loyal to him, and Zuyun would naturally not ignore him. On the other side, Zhu Feng had already absorbed hundreds of demon beasts. Feeling the surging demonic power in his body, the smile on Zhu Feng's face became more and more weird. The significance of power to him is not just a breakthrough in realm, but more importantly, the stronger the power, the more he can solve the obsession in his heart. Kill Zuyun to prove that he is stronger than him. At this time, he has already broken through to the middle stage of foundation building. He decided that after absorbing all the demon beasts here, he would go to the 10,000 mountains. Only the demon beasts there could allow him to break through to the Dan stage in one fell swoop. "I'm afraid no one's cultivation speed will be faster than mine." Zhu Feng muttered to himself and continued to absorb the monsters. There were dried corpses all around the light gate. The magic power obtained from Mo11 made Zhu Feng successful in one fell swoop. In fact, anyone who practices this kind of magic power will have a hurdle after the foundation building period. Because the body cannot withstand such a huge and complex force, the biggest danger is that it will explode due to the fusion problem between these forces. Mo11 also practiced this kind of magic power. However, at the foundation building period, he chose to stabilize the realm. But Zhu Feng did not have much practice experience, and it was even more impossible to find the drawbacks of this method. The reason why he could absorb spiritual power unscrupulously was because of the relationship with the demon refining tower. The method and the demon refining tower have similar properties, and he fused the demon refining tower into his own life tool. As long as the method is operated in the tower, the demon refining tower will help him. One person and one tower, it can be said to complement each other. Finally, after Zhu Feng sucked all the monsters into mummies without any surprise, the red candle beast in the ranch also broke through. He slowly opened his eyes, and his pair of black pupils turned into flames. Not only that, the biggest change was that there was no trace of flame on the red candle beast's body. If Zhu Yun hadn't seen him break through with his own eyes, he would never have thought that this was a fire-type monster. Breakthrough. Zhu Yun looked happy and asked subconsciously. This time, the red candle beast understood. He nodded his huge head, then fell to the ground with his limbs, and his whole body fell down. Zhu Yun then reacted, and the red candle beast understood what he meant, and was even more delighted. You go back by yourself, I should go too. Zhu Yun patted the red candle beast's body, believing that he would give Zhao Kamang and the others a big surprise when he returned. However, the red candle beast itself was weaker than Zhao Kamang, and Zhao Kamang was a sea monster, and it was close to the lake, so it was estimated that they could not fight. He glanced at the fan in his hand, preparing to wait until the burning sky flame completely digested the earth fire before seeing if it would be useful to it. After throwing the fan into the ring, Zhu Yun flashed back to the immortal mansion and left the Daoliuli mirror. At this time, Zhu Feng's pair of black pupils suddenly opened, and he murmured, "Is there anyone else in this demon refining tower? Go and take a look."